Hello dear, we are delighted to have you on Real TV, real problems, real solutions, real experts who come here and try to help us in terms of national development. What constitutes true national development? And that's why we're here. We are cut above the rest. And I would say we are above the best, So we are just happy. Today's guest, all right, is going to look at a topic that concerns most professions. It's your burnout. And I met her at Mount Dor Church, although we belong to the same group, religious group. I don't think I ever met her before, seeing her, present on this topic of burnout. And as I was telling her off camera, I was fantastically blessed by her presenting the topic. Now, I have heard several people, I've read what they've written on burnout. I've heard other presenters, but I think she brought a uniqueness to the topic and a humility to it too, that I believe attracted all of us who listened to her on that particular Sabbath. So, God bless you, and we have a video clip we just want to show, and then we move on from there.
Blessings. All the Barbados. Today is our day of prayer. So we're having a day of prayer for the entire day. Special events to make sure that the public, all of Barbados know that we are just praying for them. We want to encourage the children to continue to pray and to develop strong prayer lives. And so we just decided to do this for the public today. We're having a wonderful thing all day long at the Barbados Seminary Adventist Secondary School on our International Day of Prayer.
Have persons been honking?
Yes, we have so many honks. And we'll pray for them inside a little later. When the students first heard about it, some of them were really excited to get involved. Some of them were a little taken back, a little shy. But then as they saw their friends getting involved, they decided, listen, I'm going to be a part of it as well. And so far the response has been overwhelming. We had lots of packages just to give with magazines and fruit and orange and water. And we gave them all out. And the person was very happy to receive them. And the public has been very receptive to see that persons are still interested in prayer, interested in teaching children about prayer, and that's why we exist. That's why we're here today.
Of course, this is one of the more popular newspapers in Barbados. And I particularly chose this. This was sent to me by a friend. And as you know, we are regionalizing the program. So we get artists and they come on this program and they display their giftedness. And we have singers from all over the region, and we want to go international in a short while. So that is the thinking behind it. Today, to open this program, I want to deal with the issue of women and gangs. Now, last week we had a program sponsored by the Ministry of Homeland Security, and they were talking about vulnerable youth, and the theme was to develop a multi-sectoral approach to dealing with vulnerable youth. So they want the churches to come together, they want the schools to come together, the business associations to come together, and then they envisage a united front in the fight to save our teenagers. Now, honestly, you might say I'm one-tracked, but if I had to run this country in terms of developing a plan for youth, the first thing I would do is to operationalize a national adoption program for teenagers. I feel it's a tremendous need. And I have been in the business of adopting young people through support groups like Friends Forever and COP, and I see the value for it. And why I say that, you could have a program, you could even have a seminar, you could give a speech. But what young people need to do is the constant presence of an effective role model who is what I call genuinely and authentically interested in them and love them. That is what is important. Viktor Frankl made a statement, and I always quote him. He says the happiest people in the world are those who are making others happy. And he was known as the top Swiss psychiatrist. That is what he said. And Bertha von Suetner, who is a Czechoslovakian pacifist and author, made the remark that after the verb to love, the verb to help is the most powerful word in the world. And I buy into that big time. So that I feel we have to do something more than the talk. The talk is good. And if something evolves out of it, I've always said that, I mean, the girls, Randy C. Prasad, the criminologist and statistician from UWI, participated. In fact, he set the tone, the results of research. And one of the things he was saying is that young women are catching up. The gender gap is no longer marked. At that time, you hardly had women involved in crime and women shooting and killing. But you're seeing that gap is narrowing. So you still have the male killers, but you have an increasing number of young ladies who get involved in gangs and could use a gun with proficiency. Now that shook and shocked a lot of people in this crime symposium, dealing with vulnerable youth, particularly teenagers. So that is a case. And then I have heard of specific young ladies who are killing people. All right? I mean, when that information comes out and it hits the fan, a lot of people may get some, what I call heart attacks, because it is a fact. We had a young girl in our church in South Trinidad who was a pathfinder, and then she left the church. And this is kind of unsavory, uncomfortable business for churches to, deal with. But it's to break, the glass ceiling of denial. And this girl slit a taxi driver's throat after she left the church. She left the church meaning she was no longer Seventh-day Adventist. And as a teenager, she lured the taxi driver to a certain dark place and slit his throat and killed him. You know what I mean? Because of her age, she wouldn't suffer from capital punishment. But that is what she did. So that I want to emphasize the gender gap is closing. The other issue is that on the flip side, we have a number of mothers who are not role models. Now that is a very serious thing. You have a number of mothers who are no longer role models. So they're setting a wrong example. And I'll give you an example of that. In the last 12 months, a particular father has come to see me. All right? I believe he has 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. The first time he came to see me, and he came for counseling, he told me, he said, Pastor, I have 2 sons who are smoking. One, 12 years old, and the other, 14 years old. He says the 14-year-old is in Form 2, and the younger one is in Standard 5, okay? He said, I want to show you something. Pull out the cell phone. I was amazed. I want to show you something. So he showed me. He said, what you seen? I see all I seen is like a cloud. He said, well, underneath that cloud happens to be my 2 sons. I said, so what they did to get this cloud effect? Because when you hear about cloud and you think of the technology, that is a different ball game. He says the vaping. And what makes vaping so attractive to young people is the fact that they could disappear. So they vape and they create enough smoke, then you don't see them again. And then he showed me the start of the video where they started smoking in school. I want to ask principals to remember that, because I come into gang violence in a short while, because sometimes you wonder, where's the principal? Where are the teachers? Where are the deans of discipline? Because if I see a fight in Timberland School there that went viral all over the world, week before. And people are asking the question because the fighting among the students went on for so long. The question was, where were the teachers? Where the principal? Where the deans of discipline? That was a major issue. So that we have to look at this issue of women in gangs. I'll tell you, this guy came to me, he said, Pastor, so I have a problem. He said, I'm divorced. I am now remarried. Good. I am divorced. I am now remarried. And he's saying, I don't know the values of my first wife. I don't know what's happening there. So he came back to me recently. He said, Pastor, really, you have to intervene in this case too. I said, what is the problem? He says, the court, all right, determined who will go with the mother and who will go with the father. That's court determined. Who will go with the mother and who will go with the father. I said, okay. He says, so my young daughter is with my first wife. And then he shocked me, because I must tell you, when he came with this, he rocked my world. He says, my young daughter, I said, how old is she? She says, she's 14 years old. I say, okay. So what is the problem? He says, my young daughter is a prostitute, 14 years old. I said, who got her into prostitution? He said, my first wife has gotten my 14-year-old daughter into prostitution. And I'm trying my best to get a law involved and to get somebody involved, but it's just a difficult thing. So he says that calls for intervention, and I cannot do. So we got the address and we're pursuing that case. But that is amazing. And then I had another father came to me. And this is crazy stuff happening to our young girls. Huh? And this father virtually works for our organization. He's not a pastor, but he does some specialist work for our organization. And he says, my daughter's been missing for a long while. And we just found her. I said, where you found her? He told me, Pastor, she's in a prostitution den. And I had to virtually break that place. And then I realized that there's a protected prostitution den. I said, protected by who? He said, we don't know. Some of the law enforcement officers involving it. All right? I said, but how many girls there? He said, more than 20 girls. All right? A number of them are teenagers on the inside of this. So, we as a society, you know, I tell people, a lawless, indisciplined, and corrupt and pornographic society cannot fight crime. And I hold on to that. And there are a lot of young people growing up in godless and prayerless homes. No prayer, no God. All right? And a lot of young people, they're not into church. Nobody carries them to church. You know, I was telling a young marijuana smoker today, to this day, I was telling him, well, while your father is no longer wrong and your mom has remarried, you have a lot going for you. You say, what I have going for me? I say, you have a mother who is interested in you and she loves you. Otherwise, she wouldn't bring you here to me. And you have to appreciate you have a home. I said, the first 19 years of my life, one room. We worked our way out of poverty. All right? I got a job. So we went from one room to two rooms, and now we have, you know, we rent a home. But I was telling him that. I said, I know about breakfast. You know, if poverty is what makes people bandits, I should be the biggest bandit. I remember having a coal pot, helping my mother light a coal pot. And the truth be told, we couldn't afford the coal, so we looked for any old piece of wood. And that's how we got fire. So I said, son, you're making all kinds of excuses, but you have no right to be involved in what you're involved in. And then we went on for like an hour, because she brought him to me to counsel him. And he was virtually vexed with the mother, and I made a statement, and I said, you know something, one thing I know about addiction, it makes you hate those who love you and love those who hate you. And I want to repeat that for our viewers, our listeners on radio. Drug addiction makes you hate those who love you and love those who hate you. Well, I'm getting the sign, so we'll move on. And when we come to the second segment, after the marketing space, we are going to interview Rachel Hunt.
Macon Construction Company Limited. Save big whilst building stronger. We build with our Macon innovative building systems, which provides high wind speed, earthquake, sea blast and fire resistance. is thermally and acoustically insulated, provides improved construction timelines and cost savings. We provide construction services from design to finish and everything in between. Macon Construction Company Limited, building green today with tomorrow's technology. Contact or visit us today.
Are you looking for the right space for your business? Fred's Plaza has the space you need. We offer professional rental spaces designed for growing businesses. Conveniently located in San Juan on the Eastern Main Road, opposite the PTSC terminal and between Royal Castle and Mario's. Easy access, high visibility. For inquiries, call or WhatsApp 868-384-7142 today, or visit Level 3 Fred's Plaza for details.
Ready to take your sales career to the next level? If you have a passion for connecting with clients, building meaningful relationships, and delivering results, we want you on our team. Join a dynamic, motivated environment where your experience matters, your ideas are valued, and your drive defines your success. Step into a role with real opportunity. Join the sales team at Real TV, where your future begins.
Call us today at 292-6470 or WhatsApp us at 384-7142. You can also send an email to realtv.corporate@gmail.com.
Ready to take your
As I mentioned in the first segment, we have today someone called, her name is Rachel Hunt. So we actually have her, and part of what is taking place on our program is that we're exposing young professionals, all right, who are involved in their own business enterprise. So we're promoting that. And if we find young ladies who we believe are role models, there's a dearth of role models, and we just don't have role models, and a lot of role models in the country. So when we have a role model, and when they have a business, and we could promote that business, because we know it's sharks eating the sardines, when it comes to, your own business, private enterprise. So we are promoting that. So after the next video clip, the next voice you'll hear is Mrs. Rachel Hunt.
Now that close fabric that we operate under acts as both a protective and a significant barrier. Protective in that we are able to recognize and identify things quite quickly. Teachers are often the first line or forerunners in terms of identification of youth at risk or potential mental illnesses. And this is often done in corroboration with the child or with another trusted adult. Self-report is usually the least engaged form of identification. We know that children and youth in Tobago tend to take part in a lot of cultural activities and community activities, and so we have noticed an increase in coaches, for example, sporting coaches being the ones to recognize that something may be wrong. But that same closeness acts as a significant barrier, because in Tobago, everybody knows everybody. And the same person that I may think is problematic and have to report, maybe the person that went to school with my parents, maybe the person that I go to church with, maybe the person that taught me in school. And so what happens in Tobago especially is because people know each other so well, there's that sense of protection of the perpetrator and not necessarily victims. Another issue that we face where that is concerned is that stigma remains a significant barrier, especially in Tobago. We have done a lot to address the stigma around mental illness and mental health in Tobago, but there's still a propensity to think about mental illnesses as being a result of phobia or witchcraft, right? And so we find that in communities in Tobago, the point at which someone comes for help is at the point in which they are at crisis. And so interventions actually happen much later than they should.
But this was the panel at the recently concluded symposium on crime and dealing with vulnerable youth, a program that the Ministry of Homeland Security will be launching, very soon. Well, Sister Rachel, your name is Rachel Hunt, and it's properly spelled now.
Properly spelled.
It's properly spelled. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Who is Rachel Hunt? What she does?
Well, I am a virtual assistant in terms of business, and a virtual assistant works from home or any remote location, really, helping business owners with various tasks. And those tasks, I always say it's virtually as many tasks as can be done on your computer.
Right.
That's the task. So you're looking at phone calls, email marketing, website development, which you would have asked before when you were speaking previously. If you're looking at somebody to manage your calendar, appointment setting. So anything that you could think about that someone could do on a computer, a virtual assistant can do that for you. And one of the benefits of working with a VA is that that person can work part-time. So you're looking at small business owners. We have a lot of small business owners in Trinidad and Tobago, and they may not be able to afford a full-time assistant. So you are getting quality work for a small price for that virtual assistant. So you can have someone 4 hours for the week doing phone calls for you to support your business, right? So that's one of the things that I do. I also have a passion for psychology. I would have graduated from the University of the Southern Caribbean.
With honors?
Yes, with honors. You looked me up.
Yeah, I checked it out.
Yes, so I usually don't say that, but yes, I did graduate. And you know the thing about the honors, I got the second highest award for the GPA within my group. However, I was supposed to get the first highest.
And what went wrong?
The lecturer gave me a B in my final class,
Oh.
and I was supposed to get an A.
Wow.
And it was only after graduation they fixed it. So my family was very upset, but I was very thankful.
Well, of course, if I was your father, I upset
Right.
too.
But I was very thankful because I did get the second highest award, and I also got best research student and best psychology student.
Woo! You get best everything? You must be Lloyd's best daughter.
Yes, I really do have a passion for psychology. I love working with young persons. Listening to you talking about the fact that there are not very many mothers being good role models. That really hits home, because we are seeing young ladies, especially, going astray. There was a point in time where we were very concerned about our young men. We were very concerned, but now we see women losing femininity. Right, and having a proper mother figure to pattern after is very important for young women. So I agree with you 100%. Mentorship, when you go to help a young person, you begin to see the amount of things that they need help with, and most people run away from it.
You are also engaged in mentorship.
I am.
I only found out that today.
Yes, so there's a young lady with me here today, actually. She's outside of the studio. So she comes to our home during the week.
Right.
And she does school online, so I mentor her with helping her to learn to cook, to clean, to take care of herself spiritually as well. We are doing Bible studies together, and essentially just being that sort of person to be there for her. We also have another young lady. She's been living with us almost 2 years now. So she would have wanted to really operate as a Seventh-day Adventist and live that sort of lifestyle, come out of the world. And so my husband and I opened up our home to her, and she's been living with us for the last couple of years. And my niece as well, who she was living with us going on 4 years now. So she's 17, and we've been essentially her
So
parents.
you're walking the talk.
Walking
You're
the
not just talking mentorship,
Of
you're
course.
walking the talk. Well, that resonates with me because I don't have any children of my own, but I have several children.
Yes.
So that in very dangerous spaces too. So I understand your husband gives you great support for this program.
Of course. My husband supports me in everything. He is my rock. right? He actually was the person that taught me about being a Seventh-day Adventist because I was out in the world. So he mentored me.
He mentored
He
you.
mentored me.
And now you're mentoring
And now I'm
others.
mentoring others, and he's supporting in that. So we make a really good team. Yes.
All right, let's get to the issue of burnout.
Yes.
We have 6 minutes in this segment left, the second segment. What is, listen, everywhere, ministers facing burnout. I told you we had our magazine, the Ministry Magazine, they had 5 parts on ministers on burnout. Even burnout and suicide.
Yes. Yes, yes.
What is burnout?
So burnout could simply be defined as a state of physical, mental, and I would even say spiritual exhaustion, right?
Spiritual exhaustion.
I would say that too. I would add that in there. So when we think about a candle burns out, right? That's essentially what it is. You put out and you put out until you have no more. And one of the things that when persons started to speak about burnout in a psychology or psychiatry area, they were more looking at the helping professions. So the doctors, the lawyers, the nurses,
Right.
and I would say the ministers as well. But we recognize that burnout has been something that has been in existence for a long time. Since human beings we have experienced burnout, and the examples in the Bible of that as well. I just want to give a quick rundown of some of the things that persons would experience with burnout. So if you at home are wondering if you are experiencing burnout, some of the things you might be experiencing would be, of course, exhaustion. You have loss of interest in things that you once enjoyed.
Okay.
Feeling emotionally numb, that's a big one. You know, you had this passion for your work, and now all of a sudden
You
it's
don't
like
longer have it.
no passion anymore.
Wow.
Right? Difficulty focusing, which ties in with making more mistakes. And that's something that we don't want in any profession. Irritable, headaches, muscle tension, and digestive issues. So it goes from the mental now to the physical, where you start to experience those symptoms as well. Right? So that is the essence of burnout. Now, I do want to say that we live in a society where people we think we have all this, we have everything. We have ADHD, we have this, so there are people who might feel exhausted. They might feel exhausted for a day or two. That's not burnout. It is a set of symptoms that you would experience.
Come on you one time.
Yeah, that's come on you one time. So we don't want everybody to be running around thinking that, you know, they have this, but it is very serious. When you do experience burnout, it is serious, and we need to know what the symptoms are so that we wouldn't get into that space in the first place. Yeah.
But it takes a while before somebody suffers from burnout.
It depends. So it usually would be a building up of time, but we will also discuss situations where burnout happens very quickly if you're under a lot of stress, right? So you have somebody who could be under serious stress for a relatively short period of time and experience burnout, but usually it's this continuous, you know, breaking down of your energy until you reach to that point of burnout.
Well, in the second phase of the interview, which is the third part of the program, we look at the steps,
Yes.
symptoms, whatever you call it, leading out to that. But you seem to have a passion to deal with burnout. Where that came from?
Well, honestly, I have a passion in terms of human development in general.
Okay.
Right? And so I, again, mentor a lot of people. I also do Bible studies online. And what I've found is that doing the Bible studies, I tend to do one-on-one. And I run into a lot of issues that people have. You know, we're facing those issues all the time. And it's really important for me to know what I'm talking about. Because when you go to talk with somebody, you don't want to be telling them nonsense. So I try to have a broad range of understanding on different topics, and burnout is one of them. Even parents experience burnout. And we want to be able to guide persons effectively. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. You know, knowledge is power. And so I try to develop as much knowledge as possible.
While you were doing your psychology degree, did you ever think one day you'll become, when you're fast becoming a specialist in dealing with this burnout thing, you felt that way?
I had no idea what was going to come of my degree in psychology. I just knew that's where God wanted me to be. And I took that step, understanding that God had a plan and a purpose for my life, and I went into that. Now, when it comes to burnout, it is one of those things that the topic came to me, right? And because I am in this space of talking with persons about issues, it was very easy for me to expand on it and speak about it. And so when it comes to burnout, people being overworked, not delegating, I see this as well when I work as a virtual assistant with my clients. So I see it in many different places. You know, I speak with friends about it, friends at church. They want to be the secretary, they want to be the Sabbath school leader, they want to be the AY leader. There's a young lady I was speaking with, she told me she ended up in hospital. And when I asked her, what is your week look like? I don't know where she gets time to sleep. So we had to sit down and have a conversation about the fact that you cannot do everything. And so when we think about burnout, we think about the professions. But we really have to look at it in terms of the human existence, and that we could actually end up in the hospital or worse. That's just the reality of it.
Whew. We just have a couple seconds for this segment left. So you said you loved in the business of helping people.
Yes.
That's why you chose to do psychology?
Correct, yes. Yes, exactly.
Wow. Well, you have to hear, we're going to go into the symptoms of this burnout thing in our third segment. And we hope and trust that you will call your friends, call your neighbors, call your enemies, call all of them, and let them know that we are dealing with burnout. We have a psychology major, got honors at University in the Southern Caribbean, and we are glad to highlight as one who is actually involved in mentoring. We may have to bring her back to deal with mentorship, because that's a whole topic by itself. So you'll have to bring her back on that. So stay tuned. Tell your friends that Inspired is on, and we're going to see you in a few moments. God bless.
Hi, I'm Zelisa Rupani, and I'm inviting you to join me for Conversations with Zelisa right here on Real TV. It's not just another talk show, it's a space for real stories, real insight, and real impact. We cover it all: health, law, parenting, relationships, drug and substance abuse, mental health, social issues, and so much more, with expert guests who help bring clarity to life's most important questions. So whether you're looking to be informed, empowered, or simply inspired, this show is for you. Weekdays at 10 a.m. with repeats on Real TV.
Are you looking for the right space for your business? Fred's Plaza has the space you need. We offer professional rental spaces designed for growing businesses. Conveniently located in San Juan on the Eastern Main Road, opposite the PTSC terminal and between Royal Castle and Mario's. Easy access, high visibility. For inquiries, call or WhatsApp 868-384-7142 today, or visit Level 3 Fred's Plaza for details.
Real TV, where we keep it real all day, every day. If you're loving the entertainment, the news, and all the content we bring, then don't just watch, be part of the movement. Follow us on every platform you use: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. Share this with your family and friends, your group chat. Let them know Real TV is the new wave. Real TV, news, entertainment, information, bringing reality to you.
Very quickly, we have Rachel Hunt, psychology major, who is also dealing with, becoming quite a specialist in the issue of burnout. And before we continue the interview with her, and just look at this video clip again, focusing on the crime symposium.
Health and their behaviors. And one of the things that was coming out was in terms of a lot of our children are left unattended. A lot of our children are not being supervised. Why? The economic, or what I would say in terms of the economic demands, of course, have increased post-COVID. And so we see more and more families are going to work, parents are going to work, leaving their children unattended. So the dual income households seem to be one of the major challenges or pressures that our youth face. Single parenting, we often name single parenting. And what is that, single parenting? Single parenting is not in itself that is the causal factor. But what are the factors around single parenting that is affecting our children? Many of our parents, of course, going back to the financial struggles. So the stressful home environment in terms of those social pressures, of course, places those children at, of course, even more vulnerable. So what we are seeing is that these family dynamics influence our children's emotional development in several ways. And I could go on and on to talk about, in terms of attachment, what is happening, in terms of the experiences of loneliness, as well as one of the things coming out of some of the research is that many of those children had to take care of the younger ones. And so that became a burden for even the older child and continue to be a burden for them. They're not equipped or have been guided in terms of treating maybe a 5-year-old and now have to be responsible for that. The anxiety, also too in terms of how do they, parentification was a big problem for those youngsters. In addition to that, we saw the crimes increases, and we have Children's Authority here could tell you about the sexual and child abuse cases. Child abuse, and I will always talk about child abuse because it's very close to my heart in terms of the research. Child abuse never occurs as in one time. In a study that we did some years ago, we saw that over 90% of our children in the homes had been abused more than one time. So it was a multitude of abuse types.
Okay, let's get to the heart of this subject in terms of symptoms. How does one pick up that you're on the road to burnout?
So when we're looking at symptoms, persons usually describe that they feel detached. Detached, you know, like they're just floating around. They're going to work, they're doing what they need to do, but there's no connection to what they're doing, right? You also have demotivation. So again, you go to work, you're doing what you need to be doing, but there's no motivation behind it, keeping in mind that you were motivated before, right? So there's that actual shift there. Hopelessness. Feeling like they are used up. I think that's one of the big ones, right? You just feel used up and resentful. So when we look at burnout, why resentful comes in there is because there's this perceived lack of reciprocity. So I feel like I'm giving and I'm not getting anything in return. Right? And that's one of the reasons why they focus in on the helping profession, because in the helping profession, of course, you're pouring out from yourself. And you feel like what you are providing is not what you are getting back from that. It doesn't equalize. Right? So that sort of experience is what a lot of people say they feel when they have that burnout. Right? Actually have some examples of persons who would have experienced burnout, and I think that might help persons understand a little bit better. So one of the studies I looked at, actually there was a paper that was written by Wilmer Cheveley. His name is not English, so I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it properly.
Okay.
And it's a short socio-cultural history of burnout. And he was citing a particular study when they were just starting to learn about burnout in psychiatry. And there was this nurse named Nurse Jones. And she started to feel demotivated. She started to feel like what she was doing was not enough for these patients. She was in a psych ward. And the patients themselves started to feel negatively towards her. So this feedback loop started to happen. So the less she did her job with joy and enthusiasm, they started to resent her. So the feeling of resentment builds
Well,
up.
that's where resentment comes in.
The feeling of resentment builds up there, right? And the reason why she felt that resentment is because she felt used up. She felt like, I'm coming here, I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm pouring out for myself, and she's not getting anything from it. And when we get into that cycle now, we start dehumanizing people. So burnout, when we think about burnout, is, oh, I'm tired, I'm burnt out. But there's so much more to it. Because when we start dehumanizing people, what does that mean now for how we do our jobs, for how we parent, for how we minister? We just come like robots, just doing it rote. And that's not good at all.
When I heard you mention the word resentment, I was wondering, so when people start to shoot back at us,
yes,
or respond negatively to us, all right, that is their resenting our lack
of enthusiasm
and loss of energy.
Correct.
So people perceive we're not interested in them, but it's not that, it's just that we're going down.
You don't have anything more to give. Yeah.
No more to give.
No more to give.
I love that when you said that we're giving and giving and giving until we have no more to give.
Yep.
Say a little more on that.
And so one of the things that we look at as well in terms of no more to give, and it's a very serious thing, there's actually a word in Japan called death by work. Death by work.
Death by work.
Death by
Never
work.
heard that in my life.
Death by overwork, really. I'm not going to try to pronounce the word, it's a Japanese word, but they have a burnout society that you could actually study. So they give and give and give and they work, and there are people that actually drop dead from overwork.
Drop dead. So overwork kills.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, by the way, you heard that, folks? Overwork kills.
Overwork kills. And so when we look at we're tying in the resentment, we're tying in the overwork, we're tying in all of that, then you end up with a person or with a group of people sometimes, because sometimes it's a team of people that are not performing the way that they are supposed to. That's just because, and the funny thing is, persons who experience burnout usually are trying to do the most. Right? They are trying to give their best.
Trying to help the world.
They're trying to help the world. They're trying to create a solution for a problem that exists. But when you get to that point of burnout, you're no longer being productive. Now,
See,
now
you
your
are saying
liability.
it hurts your productivity too?
Yeah, your liability now.
Lord help me not to reach there. Oh, Lord.
Help us all, right? When we look also at the Bible, because psychology is a pretty new field, but human beings have been in existence for thousands of years. When we look at the Bible, we also see persons in the Bible who would have experienced burnout, right? Reading Exodus chapter 18, we see Moses and his father-in-law Jethro. So for those who want to look at the account, it's taken from verses 13 to 26. I encourage you to read the entire chapter, read the entire Bible and all, you know.
See, she's pushing a plug. That's a missionary, you know. That's a missionary, you know.
So Exodus 18, 13 to 16, it speaks about the children of Israel. They came out of Egypt. And this is a classic setup for burnout, for Moses. Because we have this group of people that Moses is giving to and giving to and giving to, and they are grumbling. So he's not feeling like he's getting the job done. He's not getting it done. He's not getting anything in return. And so we get to the point where God has given Moses the law, and they have a long line of people, all day standing, coming to him to solve their problems. And Moses is getting exhausted, and the people are also getting exhausted. And his father-in-law comes and he says, what you are doing is not right. So he gave him counsel, and he told him, choose persons who can come and deal with the smaller issues, and you deal with the larger issues. And so we could imagine Moses may not have had time to eat. He may not have had time to rest. He may not have had time to think about the issue of this person separated from the other person. And that's a classic example of how somebody can be burnt out. That's what we don't want to happen.
Whew, so Jethro helped the son-in-law.
Yes, yes. And we need that sometimes. We need people to step in sometimes and say, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Okay, we just got the bell ringing there. So we're getting somewhere with this topic of burnout. We have to bring back this sister after today, you know, because we're now beginning to look at the critical factors involved in burnout. So can we overcome? Let's wait for the last segment. Call your friends. Call your enemies. See you in a flash.
Need a space to record your podcast, interview, or video content? Our fully equipped studio is available for rental, perfect for productions of all kinds. Enjoy a professional studio setting, quality lighting, and a comfortable environment designed for smooth, high-quality productions. Call or WhatsApp today to book your studio time.
Farm India Expo would like to wish all our valued customers a blessed Ramadan 2026. We are now open with a complete change of stock located opposite Medford gas station, Chaguanas, featuring brand new styles and the latest products straight out of India. Shop from a wide variety of clothing, accessories and special goods catering for all your e-shopping needs. Plus, don't miss out on our full-size Indian food court with delicious meals and treats for everyone. Come visit us at the Farm India Expo, conveniently located opposite the Medford gas station in Chaguanas. Farm India Expo, your one-stop destination for Ramadan and e-shopping. We can't wait to see you.
When security matters most, choose Catch Security Services Limited. We are proudly approved by the Ministry of Homeland Security. We protect your home, business, community, and much more. Our services include professional baton and armed officers, specialized K-9 units, mobile patrols, secure cash pickups, secure transport, and pepper spray applications and supply coming soon. Don't wait. Secure your assets now. Contact Catch Security today. Call 622-6601, email info@cssl-tt.com, or visit our office at 30-32 Saddle Road, Maraval.
Well, this is our last segment for today, but I promise we will have Sister Rachel Hunt returning to this program, because just to finish this and then we have to start a brand new segment on mentoring. So we will go in that direction. Before we conclude the interview, we have a group, I understand is AI inspired, but I just love to hear men sing and blend, especially when it's a cappella, to be frank with you. So let's go into that and then we'll conclude the interview today.
This life is a journey from cradle to crown. Every road has the beginning, every step has a sound. Some paths are easy, some filled with pain. Some days are sunshine, some days are rain. Every journey has a purpose, every road has a goal. But without the right direction, you can lose your soul. Jesus, the captain of my life, you hold the man, you read the signs. When storms are rising, when waves are high, you stand beside me, you guide my ride. Oh, Jesus, the captain of my life, I trust your hands, I trust your side. Many voices call my name. Turn this way, try that road. Some promise quick success, some offer lies alone. But shortcuts hide disasters, and wide roads lead astray. Not every open doorway was made by God's way. I've seen dreams sink in shallow water, eyes crash on heated stone. Hearts that sail without direction, left drifting all alone. Oh, Jesus, the captain of my life, you calm the storm, you guide my night. When I am tired of rowing alone, you whisper, child, you're not on your own. Jesus, the captain of my life, you bring me safely through the fight. There are Times I held the steering wheel and thought I knew the truth, but pride nearly wrecked me, fear nearly stole my way, till I gave you full control and learned to obey. Now when the compass is shaken, the horizon is unclear, I fix my eyes on Jesus, and my heart finds peace, not fear. Jesus, the captain of my life, my anchor strong, my guiding light through storms of loss and winds of change. Your voice remains the same. Jesus, the captain of my life, you never fail, you never lie. Not every part is permanent.
You know, Rachel, Africa has produced amazing male groups
Okay.
who blend, and it's like natural. I was in Canada, and I met a group. I was in Western Canada, Alberta. I met a group from Zimbabwe, and I promised to bring them down, but he promised him fulfill.
Not yet.
So let's get back. This is our last segment, and we have
Yes.
11 minutes. Can this be overcome, and how?
Yes, definitely. And I'm hoping to pack as much as possible in this 11 minutes because this is the important part.
Yes.
Right? And I want to speak specifically first to our ministers of churches, our Bible workers, prayer warriors, persons who are in leadership. Because one of the things that we think is because we are doing work for God, that we cannot be burnt out. That's a myth.
But I used to feel that way.
No, that's a myth. Anybody could be burnt out because we are human beings. And so I want to take us back to the Bible because I believe the Bible has the solution to all our problems.
Okay.
That's my firm belief. And so we look at 1 Kings chapter 18 and 19. This is one of my favorite persons in the Bible. It's Elijah, not Elisha, the one with a J. And it's a famous account of him being on Mount Carmel, and he's there with the prophets of Baal, and they have the big standoff. And of course, the prophets were praying and trying to do all kind of things for their gods to come and hear them. They didn't do anything, and fire came down from heaven, and God was proven to be God.
That's after Elijah
That's
prayed.
after Elijah prayed, right? So Elijah was working for God.
Right.
And he was in the power of God. We can't deny that. And after that big victory, we see Jezebel told Elijah, well, I'm going to kill you. And something strange happened. Elijah went into the desert, he lay down, and he told God, I want to die. That is burnout. And sometimes we have persons who they have a big evangelical series, or they go out and they have big spiritual warfare. They're praying for people and they're doing all of these things for God. And after they have had this big victory, they have a crash. But they still want to continue to do the things as normal.
Is that denial in a form?
I would assume so. It has to be, because they think, well, I'm doing it for God, therefore I shouldn't feel the burnout. I shouldn't feel the pressure. But we see a solution in what God provided for Elijah that we can take for ourselves. So the angel of God came and he let him sleep. And he woke him up, he gave him something to eat, water to drink, and he told him, go back to sleep.
The angel didn't tell him go back to work, told him go back to sleep.
And the angel didn't even give him a sermon. The angel just said, go back to sleep. He went back to sleep, the angel woke him up again, food, water, go back to sleep. And after that, God communed with Elijah. After he rested his physical body, rest, food, good food, is from God, right? Good food, water, and Elijah went back to sleep. And sometimes we take for granted that we need to take care of ourselves. That this physical body needs to be nurtured, and we need to put back the physical energy that was exerted in the work that we've done. So that's very, very important. The next thing I want to talk about is delegating. So we go back to the account of Moses, and his father-in-law gave him instructions to delegate. And parents, if your children are old enough, let them sweep the floor, let them wash the clothes, let them cook, let them do things, because parents get burnt out too. And we think we need to do everything because we want to put on the cape. I am Superman, I am Superwoman. No, we have to delegate. In your job, you have to delegate. In the church, you have to delegate. And one of the things that I say with delegating that people are afraid of is that they won't do the job as well. And I say, yes, that is true. There are times when the person who you give to delegate will not do the job as well. But if you get burnt out, you wouldn't be able to do it at all. Right? And so we have to learn to teach and to mentor persons in our lives so that as they learn,
share the burden with
we
you.
share the burden so that I am not doing everything on my own. I think that's one of the main things that we could look at in terms of overcoming burnout, not getting into it, and if we do get into it, to get out of it. Delegate. A big thing as well is mindset. We believe, for some of us, that we can do everything. And there's something that I want to say very nicely. You are not God. God is God. I am not God. God is God. And when we get out of that mindset that I am supposed to do everything, it changes things. Even if God has called us to do ministry, even if God has called us to be good parents, to be a good business owner, God is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. I never see that for a human being. Right?
God will never run out of energy.
He will never run out of energy, but we will. And so when we have that mindset, we understand that it's okay to be tired. You know, some people find they shouldn't be tired. It is okay to be tired. And when we recognize that
the tiredness is not a sin.
It's not a sin to be tired. You know, there's a whole thing called the Sabbath. Just saying. Rest. So God knew that we would be tired and he gave us rest. And so we have to be able to put it down. I always say no is a full sentence. No is a complete sentence. If I feel that I am unable to handle something, I can simply say I am not able to handle
You all heard
that.
that? No is a complete sentence.
Just no. Sister Rachel, could you do this, that? No, I can't. You have to know when your hands are full, right? The other thing we want to look at is, and I want to make this statement, do what God calls you to do, not what you think you should do.
Well, that's a huge one. That is huge.
Yeah. Do what God calls you to do, not what you think you should do. Because sometimes we get burnt out because we are in the wrong place helping the wrong people. You know, we have people who have the gift of help. That's their gift. But it has to be guided by God. Because sometimes we are trying to help people and we are pouring out from ourselves instead of pouring out from God. We are supposed to be the receptacle. That's the word, the receptacle. We are supposed to be the vessel that God fills and then we pour out to others. But even if we have the gift of help, sometimes we find ourselves in the wrong place and we are helping from within ourselves instead of allowing God to pour through us. Right? And that's something that we have to be very aware of, and we have to be prayerful because there are some places and situations we are just not supposed to be.
Woo! Well, she gave us, she did say at the start of the segment that she'll see how much she could
As
pack
much as
into.
possible.
No. Let me just ask you something. We have 2 minutes left. Normally, we ask the guests to look at the camera and say something to the public that they need to hear on the topic. That you feel is, they must hear. So you go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes to say something on the topic of burnout. What I would say is always go to God. That's our foundation with anything. Go to God first. If you are already experiencing burnout, the best thing to do is tell the persons who, as much as possible, who you can relieve responsibility, who can help you relieve that responsibility, let them know how you are feeling. Because your life is more important than any responsibility that you have. If you end up sick, if you end up worse than sick, we know what worse than sick reaches to, somebody else will do the job. Somebody else will do the job. And so it's important for you to recognize that even if God has called you, even if you are trying to be the best minister, Bible worker, parent, business owner, employee, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And so go to God and ask Him what you are supposed to be doing. Take care of yourself, take care of your body. Make sure that you are giving your body the things that you need so that you can operate as the person that you want to be, as your full self. That's what I would say.
Well, listen, it was a pleasure having you. And this is the alpha, but not the omega. And you know what I love about her is her humility, her dependence on the word, and her research. So she mixes all of that. And I would say she's the consummate professional, because Covey says people who want to succeed as professionals must have the technical competency, but they must know their craft. They must have the knowledge required, and then they must have what do you call it, conceptual competency. They must enable people to see, have a vision of what they should do. And then he talks about the interdependent, that is recognizing that you have to share, you have to delegate. You know, your dream must become the dream of others. And I think she has all of these competencies in copious measure. So until next week, okay? I don't know if she could make it next week, but until next week, all right? Wednesday, remember at 2 o'clock, the program Inspire on Real TV. May God bless you. May He cause His face to shine upon you and give you peace. So until we meet again, may the blessings of God and Jehovah Jireh be upon you. Thank you so much for viewing.